Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, Sustainable Agriculture of the Americas Pavilion. Welcome to our home, and please help yourself to coffee and water after the event is over. Thank you, Juan Valdez, also for your contributions to ICA. Yay! We're really grateful to have you in our pavilion. We especially love the fact that we have so many young leaders and bringing your creativity and your energy to the issue of agriculture and food. So I'll turn it over now to Rabobank's panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction and for hosting that we can actually hold this discussion. So I want to welcome you all to this event where we will highlight the importance of youth engagement in sustainable agriculture practice, both by project but also just by the way of young agricultural scientists or farmers. As you all know, at this COP there has been a lot of negotiations around agriculture as well, with the Sharm el-Sheikh Joint Work Program for implementation on agriculture and food security. But why is this so important? Well, last year, 24 billion tons of fertile soil were lost. This resulted in a year where 1 out of 5 children under the age of 5 faces severe growth consequences as a result of chronic or reoccurring malnutrition. So that's quite a lot, 1 on 5. If you see the room here, just take that in mind. But also, more than 333 million people are facing acute levels of food insecurity. So that's not only the youth that is facing food insecurity, the whole world is facing this problem. Therefore, it's important to look to the solutions. Solutions where the generation of the future can play a big role. The enthusiasm, the power of the youth will be highlighted in this event with our beautiful speakers that are here. By this event, we want to show you what youth can reach for these much needed solutions, but also where they still find troubles to reach their potential impact. So I think it's going to be interesting to also introduce our speakers. Everyone just give them 2 little minutes to present yourself and say what's the organization you're here with and why you see youth as an important player in the agricultural problematic at the moment. So Barry, we can start with you.
Well, thank you. I think I'm not the least of the youth here, but although I'm just saying that because I do think that my generation also has the responsibility to organize so that youth can come through. So and that's one of the reasons why I actually asked what you do. I worked 33 years for Rabobank. I'm still working for Rabobank, but in the last 14 years I was the executive board member. But I decided to step down so that youth can come by, right? So you have to take room and then do other things. And I think that's one of the biggest challenge of our generation is to know when to stop. So it happens. But yes, I'm a farmer in Brazil. I have a farm in Brazil. I spent 33 years at Rabobank, 14 of them leading, and I actually, in my tenure, I created the Food and Agri Bank the way we know Rabobank today.
Also present yourself.
Hi, I'm Ariana, and thank you all for being here. Really excited about this panel. I'm the founder and CEO of a social enterprise, a startup called Forested. I'm sure I'll talk more about the business later, but I'm originally from Hong Kong, but I live in Ethiopia where I've been for 9 years, and all of the work that we do is around commercializing regenerative ingredients in partnership with community-led conservation groups across East Africa. So I would say kind of empowering, working with youth is incredibly important because we're optimistic. We're almost like unapologetically reckless. I'll probably make a lot of, I might offend people, but hopefully you guys know I'm just stereotyping a little bit. But I would say optimism is kind of the foundation for that grit and that resilience. And that's really what it's going to take to regenerate our systems and youth are also the future. And so if we're not the ones, the most bullish and the most accountable to making sure that our world is better for us and the generations below us, then who will?
Okay, thank you. Then we, last but not least, have Rabi.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Ravi, a 24 years young guy from Nepal, and my background is agriculture engineer. It's been an honor for me to be here as a president of the International Association of Students in Agriculture and Related Sciences, the biggest student network I can say now. A brief history of our association is that it has been established 65 years ago. Like in 1957 in Tunisia, the people from 8 member countries just gathered together from different background, agriculture background, veterinary, medicines, and other. And they just formed the association called EOS. And at that time, we were present in only 20 countries. But now, we are in more than 50 plus countries, connecting 10,000 plus students, and we are in present 123 university today.
Okay, thank you. Rabi, you already mentioned you have a huge impact or like global influence on youth and, well, students in particular. How does ES empower those students in sustainable agricultural practices?
Okay, so if you ask me what our association is doing, how we are empowering, so obviously it will take me 2 hours to explain you. But okay, I'm just summarizing everything. I have to say, we are working in the 3 perspective. That is, I have to describe in 3 words. That is one, aspiration. Second one is advocacy. Third one is action. Okay, aspirations. We are connecting the student with different aspirations. We are a aim, and we are presenting now in almost UN events, and we are advocating for the agriculture through things. Similarly, for the other word, advocacy, we the youth are not satisfied what is happening today, and we think that everyone should be empowered, and to empower the youth, we have established one independent committee called FI, Food and Agriculture Youth Institute. We are making the position paper, policy paper, giving the young people's training on the policy, what is they actually doing. So you can just give the concrete example was that last time in the World Congress, we had drafted the position paper on water scarcity, which has great effect on climate change also, and that was presented in the UN Water Conference at New York. Similarly, we drafted the position paper last time on the no waste food, and then we presented that in the World Food Forum at Italy. This is what we are doing through the advocacy. And if you are talking about action with the youth that are not only we are believe on the deeds, we work on the ground. So that's we have 40 ongoing youth-led projects around the world. And again, so we are working on the SDG only, UN water agenda through Delta projects, empowering the women through Women in Agriculture project. We are doing advocacy for the food through No Word Food, and we are empowering the local communities also. That is our biggest project called Blaze Concept Project. That's what we are doing.
Okay, thank you. I can already see that ES has a lot of influence with the youth. But how is it for your project, Forested, Ariana? How do you make sure that youth are included in your organization?
Yeah. So our mission at Forested is to conserve and restore the world's most biodiverse ecosystems. Right now we have a focus on Africa, and the reality is if youth are not benefiting from our solution and our natural world, we won't have our natural world. On the continent, majority of the population is less than 19 years old. And at the same time, what's happening is, farming families are growing, and the youth are having less access to land. They also don't have the same resources that other generations have had. So the ways in which we engage youth are kind of bespoke based off of where we are, but so we're working with natural ingredient producers, specifically tuna fishing communities, as well as seaweed producing cooperatives on the coast of Kenya. Typically, youth are not as involved, neither are women, in, say, tuna activities. And so what we've done is kind of identified certain natural ingredients that have demand in the market across companies like Lush Cosmetics, other Fortune 500 global consumer packaged goods companies, and said, okay, how can youth help us build and strengthen these supply chains? So in one particular project with these tuna fishing communities, which, and tuna fishing is very male dominated, on the off season and also during it, we engage women and youth to forage a tree crop that exists within mangrove and coastal ecosystems called mkungu that we're working with a global cosmetics company to kind of commercialize as a more water friendly, more carbon friendly substitute for almond oil. So we look at these kind of opportunities where youth might actually be available. And we're also particularly interested in job creation in areas where it doesn't require youth to have land nor assets. But the last thing I do want to say that's been quite encouraging, as we work across different governments and all the regulations and different programs they have in Ethiopia and Kenya, what's really great is that there are actually a lot of initiatives that governments have set up to enable youth and empower them with job creation activities. They just need those kind of commercial partners to help close the gap on these opportunities. For example, in Ethiopia, the government very much knows that if youth are out and about and they are jobless, and if they're even a little bit educated, that is like the recipe for civil war, right? And so like we're pretty much all incentivized to make sure that youth are thriving. And so what they've done in some areas, given depleting land, is to actually create youth groups, provide some microfinancing for youth to work together and kind of jointly manage land. So we do work with a few youth groups who have basically been allocated land by the government to put hives and basically start these micro beekeeping enterprises. So these are just the different ways in which we work with youth.
Okay, thank you. And then I also have a question for Barry. You are not a youth anymore, but how can you support the youth in those initiatives that they already have mentioned?
Well, I thank you. I think that I would like to divide it into one of the things is how you organize youth in the bank, and the other one, how you organize maybe your clients, and the third one, maybe looking a bit more about the food and agri. So Rabobank is a cooperative bank, so that should be very important, right? So the main objective for me as a board member was how do you guarantee the continuity of the organization? And by mean doing that, you really need to well organize your youth within the bank. So we have a youth council within Rabobank with more than 12, almost 1,300 of our employees. They are member of those. We also fund the membership. We ask them to travel around the world to give input to management about what do they see. So they go to the US, they go to Africa, they do these projects. But then we also have some of the members in some key committees that we have. One example of a committee is we have an ethics committee at the bank. So when we discuss issues of ethics or very, let's say, societal problems that you need other inputs, we ask youth also, so representative of the youth to participate. That's one. The second thing, as I said, we are cooperative. So we have organized in our way, we organize our governance within Rabo. We have the members, but we also have young councils. Our members organizing young councils. And they are all over the Netherlands, but we also exported that concept to outside of the Netherlands. So we already have councils, young clients councils in Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, and we also have them in the US. So trying to organize that. And then you get actually to the third part is actually the one that concerns me the most, is actually how do you actually get young people into the farm, right? So succession management at farm level. So, and that's I think, to me, the biggest challenge that we have today. So we talk about feeding the world on a nutritious way, while the average farmer today is what, 55 or so, even older than me. So, and I think that's for me, and I'm so happy here to hear you speaking, and the programs that you are doing, John, because that's where the real challenge is. And that's why, yes, we work with a lot of NGOs because we think that's to reach through the foundation, through partnerships, we fund the technical assistance, but also for large-scale farmers. So also for large-scale farmers, we have now started succession programs, because it's also very difficult for a farmer that is 60 years old to give the checkbook to the kids, right? Think about it. So give over the farm to the next generation. So we have very specific programs for that so that we try to help families to transition to a new situation.
Thank you. Ariana and Barry both already have made a comment on the problems that we are facing to include younger people in both agricultural or in the fishing and mangrove systems. But I was wondering, Rabi, do you see any problems in including the youth in agriculture systems in those projects that ES is doing for students around the world?
Okay, so regarding that, I've already mentioned that we have 40 different ongoing youth lead projects, and you all know that we are the non-profit associations, and the project doesn't run like that without the main thing is funding and mentorship from that. And you are the young mind. Yes, we have lots of ideas which need to be implemented, but the main things what we are just being lacking there is a limited space for funding and resources. We need support from the stakeholders. We need the capacity building together because alone we cannot do. We need expertise. We can share the knowledge with each other. So I always say, and I think not in this event only. Every time where I go to, when I see the bigger parties, I always say we need the fund for that. We need this capacity building because alone we cannot do. If our ideas can be implemented in the society, obviously it will be bring a lot in the society. I'm just giving you one example. That is, ES is running one project in Nepal called Mahuwari village. We are empowering 32 women there through the gardening. We are giving the training to the how to make the small gardens, how to make utilize the small land into good production, so that they can have sustenance farmings and they can earn independently. One of our partners, I will not mention, they have funded. Okay, that's funded for 1 year. So okay, that's good. And we report them. We gave every report, progressing report. But I don't know. They just constantly stop our funding on that. I don't know. So in that case, the projects remain now unstable there. That's not running good. So we don't want such like. We want a continuous support our partners. Yeah, we have a good partners too. Like last time with the mentorship with FAO, they have given us 32,000 euros for supporting the one of the biggest innovative challenges. Rabobank has supported in our global project competitions. It's also the things where lots of ideas are coming. So we need more stockholders, we need more parties like this. That's why we are wanting an advocacy for this.
Okay, thank you. Then I have another question for Ariana. What are key elements, do you think, to include those youth? You already mentioned, like, if they are educated but don't find work, but to let them start up their own initiative or to help support them through forestry. What key elements should it contain to be also sustainable in a way that it doesn't harm our ecosystems?
Yeah, I think it starts with showing them the demand and that there's a business case for what we're asking them to do, whether that's to, work in the areas of the forest where they jointly conserve and manage to forage ingredients, or if we're trying to convince them that they can be partners with us in kind of field-based processing, like being that first step where crude honey gets pressed and separated into like filtered honey and crude beeswax. But I would say I think communities have been pretty aligned in spirit with us. I think in general, farmers and land stewards, they know first and foremost the importance of the environment. And so we don't really have to convince them that they need to find sustainable ways to utilize their natural assets. They're really looking for us to support them in showing that there is demand for them to sustainably manage their land.
Okay, thank you. what is really lovely about those three key speakers here is that they both are very international active as well. We have ES, that is an international association. Forested is also already spread around the country, and Rabobank is supporting different farmers around the world. And I was wondering, maybe I can ask it to you, Barry, how throughout the whole international context, those projects can contribute to the economical stability of food security?
Yeah. You know, one thing that I go back to the food and farmer, right? So we should never forget that farming is actually a generational business, right? So I mean, I don't know if you're going to farm the land of your parents, but
Yeah,
no.
obviously.
But the thing is, it's generational. And if you think about nature, it's also a generation. You have to bring it from one place to the other, from one generation to the other. So what more and more we are looking at Rob is how do we, as we create all the systems of biodiversity, all those systems of carbon capturing, all those systems of biomass, how do you actually take it to one generation to the other? Because today, actually, we only take from inheritance financial from the other, from one family to the other, but we don't take actually the value of nature and the value of landscapes to the other generation. So what we have been trying to do at Rabobank is how do you create that? Well, one of the projects we have done is Acorn, is where we actually trying to pay to farmers actually for the ecological systems on biomass and measuring that, and actually that there's value created. So that's not only the land, but value that you also can actually take to the next generation. Because the next generation, the youth generation, needs to see value in what they are doing, right? So it needs to see there is not only subsistence, there is actually richdom. And now my view is that farmers are actually the solution for our climate top. I think agriculture is actually the only business that actually can create positive results and not negative results.
I think this is very, very interesting. Thank you for this content. I see Ariana very. Do you want to add something
Totally.
about that?
Yeah, actually, so my family is not in farming, and I'm actually embarrassed to say that my family's legacy is in logging. And it's funny because I didn't actually realize this until last year, and so it's just been funny how I think like my ancestors were generating income from timber, and now I'm trying to figure out how do we actually help communities generate more income from non-timber. But I was nodding a lot because I think I've been quite carbon credit frustrated, I would say. But I do think that kind of carbon markets and the emerging nature markets do actually offer a new economy for youth to engage in when it comes to, for better or worse, monetizing the conservation and restoration of natural assets. And one thing that we're really excited about piloting at Forested, and also very much engaging youth, is seeing how youth and communities can actually get involved in the measurement, basically the more effective measurement of carbon and nature data for supply chains. So we're building what we're calling an in-setting calculator. So we'll be partnering with different kind of tools and service providers who have some sort of kind of carbon measurement. But what we felt was missing was that kind of, whether you call it last or first mile, granular data, and really leveraging the youth in the communities of the agricultural producers that we work with to actually be able to help us collect data in a more decentralized manner, in a way that's hopefully more real time, more accurate, and again more granular, so that ultimately these global cosmetics brands that we're working with who want access to carbon impact data can feel very confident that because the carbon data is starting with the producers of the ingredients that they're buying, that will enable some more revenue flows back to the producers.
Okay, thank you. Robbie, you're working a lot with students. Are students also interested in this entire carbon credit, carbon market that is now going on? And do you also think, like what Ariana said, that this can be a way to involve youth more in sustainable agriculture?
Yes, because obviously youths have a more like ideas about the carbon credits because they use lots of tools and they know because yeah somehow the carbon credits can be advanced into different ways and the youths have idea because there's a lot of research papers has been came which have explained that the carbon credits has both effects on sustainable agriculture. So it has some positive effects, it has some negative effects too. So I think the youth can identify because in most of the regions, mostly in Asia and Africa regions, there's a lots of farmers that are doing is still uneducated. They don't have idea about that, and they're still performing the traditional methods. And youth can play the roles in this to advocate them to make them aware how can make the farming in systematic way and sustainable way. So I believe youth can play a huge role in this.
I think carbon markets cannot exist without banks, so I'm very interested in what Barry, now that we touched this topic, what Rabobank's view is on those carbon markets to engage the youth-led projects.
Well, let me start that today, the carbon market is a Wild West. It's very complicated. If I would be a farmer, I would say, why should I do it? Because I don't, what's the standard? So let's be very honest. So I think that we have a responsibility as a society to give four standards to the farmers. The first one is, what are we talking about carbon standards? The second thing is, what is the biodiversity standards we are talking about? The third is, what are we going to do about water? Who is efficient, not efficient about water? And what's actually the social demand that we have on the farmers? So we as a society, we here now here in Dubai, but in the coming years, we need to give certainty to the farmers and the young people that these are the four things we think are important. And this is the way we do about it. And this is how we reward you if you do it right. And this is the way we're going to punish you if you don't do it right. So sorry, there's no way around it. But today, I think it's a Wild West. It's very difficult for the Rabobank to invest in carbon projects because we have actually no clue what the value is and what the standards are, how we're going to do about. We all talk about carbon sequestration. Everybody talks about that. But IPCC says it's a better solution than even solar and wind, but we have absolutely no standard to do it, right? So I'm critical because I do think that we are moving and trying to help there, but we are not there yet. So that's why we signed the Soil Health Coalition, and one of the things is to try to get the standards so that everybody can measure. So I'm a bit critical here. So what do you think about it? I'm critical, right? Rabobank is a financial bank. We are very big in farming, and in the agriculture, but we cannot change the world if we don't set, as a collective, a standard. We all know the standards for energy transition, but we have not set the standard for food transition.
Okay, it's powerful. Then I think we can now also, if there is a flying mic, have some questions from the public.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I really wanted to respond to Barry's
Yeah.
comment. So I would say we definitely need standards related to carbon because, as we do know, we might take actions that could have harm on the environment. But I've also been encouraged in the market to know that there are a decent amount of companies who are buyers of credits who are very bullish to just take action now. So, for example, like with our partners at Lush Cosmetics, they frequently come to us and they're like, okay, we want to invest in carbon insetting. What do you guys think? Like, what do you guys want to do? And then I'm like, oh, well, we're following the Science-Based Targets Network to understand how to really properly measure like insetting credits. And they're like, we don't have time to wait. Like, we need to do something with these communities. And they'll be like, we will give you guys money to have your communities plant trees. And so I noticed that there's a lot of agility, and I'm seeing an increase in just support from a lot of these global, but also maybe not publicly listed companies who are willing to take risks.
So
But we do need guidelines.
my answer to you is, this is good, but this brings you millions. We need trillions.
Yeah.
Right, so sorry to be very honest. This
Yeah.
is millions, but to change what we need to change in the food, we need trillions, and the big money is only going to come when they know what they're talking about, what they're investing in.
Totally.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, both at the same time until we get there.
Okay, I see that there is a mic over there.
Hello. So my name is Lumumba from Kenya, and I'm a young farmer. So basically, one of the key things that my question goes to the to rubber banks. I think one of the key things that we see, especially in Kenya, is there's so many institutions that are looking to support young farmers. But the issue is when it comes to sort of like investments and all that stuff, you find like the bureaucracies and the red tapes, they're quite complex, especially from developing countries or young people from developing countries to be able to sort of like apply for these investment facilities. So maybe what's different in Rabobank that would make a young person from Kenya or a farmer like myself to probably be interested in working with you guys? Thanks.
One thing, we don't operate directly in Kenya. Sorry, I cannot help you there in the sense of the bank directly. But we do have the foundation, which is doing many projects there. But the biggest impact that we actually have is actually that we started many years ago to start buying shares, minority shares in local banks. So you might know EcoBank, you might know Equity Bank. So Rabobank, and what we try to do through those investments, because you need local currency, you don't need dollars, you need local currency, right? Is that we started to develop projects together with those banks so that we can reach out. So we have been training technical assistants, account managers, so that they can go out there, have the risk assessment. We have been working on for those banks to look at the whole value, not only to the farmer himself, because otherwise it always goes on the weakest link, and sometimes the farmer is the weakest link because he's taking all the risks of the farming. So we try to look at it from a full value chain, from the buyer to so, and then strengthen. You need to have insurance. So that's what we try to bring. So try to those investments, try to strengthen the understanding of the local banks of how to finance the local communities.
Okay.
Sorry, I might have some insight. So most of my experience is in Ethiopia. Kenya is a new market for us, but it was really hard for me to get my first loan. So what I did, I got lucky, but I was talking with the U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia, and the U.S. government has a corporation called the Development Finance Corporation, operates in different countries across Africa, but basically they understood that accessing loans was a direct barrier to businesses led by youth or anyone to really get off of the ground and scale. And so the US's Development Finance Corporation set up a loan guarantee program with a few local banks and basically said, you banks will be able to access this money specifically in foreign currency. We park it at your bank if you guys make sure that you deploy this millions of dollars for 50 micro, small, medium enterprises working on sustainable and more inclusive agricultural businesses. So I don't know what it's like, but in Ethiopia, in order to access a loan, you have to show 100% of the value assets of the loan amount. And we didn't have that. We didn't even have a car. We were renting our first factory. Well, we still are renting our factory, but we had to rent something before, so we didn't have any assets. And so we were able to leverage this loan guarantee program with the Development Finance Corporation to actually access this loan. So look for these kinds of programs and see which banks that they're working with, because that for us was catalytic in us being able to just aggregate and ship out our first container of honey to the UK.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I had one other idea, but I totally forget. I'll find you later. Yeah.
Hi, I'm from Argentina. I work with beekeepers, and I developed one network of beekeepers in an ecoregion, the Gran Chaco Americano, which is a tri-national ecoregion. And my question is, what happened particularly when you work with the small producers, you need time for the process. no? Even though for this investment too. So I want to know about the approach of the bank, or maybe your experience about the time of investment, no? On maybe present that, for example, of having all the formal parts doing and the value change strong, already existed. I don't know if I was.
Yeah.
But that's why I was the same that applies. Well, the projects in Africa also applies to Latin America, right? So some years ago, and I'll talk a little bit about Brazil. We were the first bank to have courage in Brazil, outside of the government or banks, to go and have long-term financing to the farmers. In the cooperative bank, we sorry, yeah, where we took the first investor so that they could grow. We were the first, let's say, non-governmental investors, and we brought technical assistance. So in my cooperative bank, what we need to do is to support other cooperative banks and other institutions so that they can get strong and they grow. Argentina, we have not done Argentina yet, to be very honest. We did Paraguay with a big, you talk about Chaco, right? So you said Chaco, right? Yeah, so in Paraguay, we were very courageous, invested in the local bank, Banco Regional. It didn't work out 100%, but we did, right? And in Argentina, as Argentina is going through a very difficult economical moment right now, we actually, not the small farmers, but we increased our support to the export business of food and agri there, which it's what we think is your country. So yeah, sometimes you take a risk, but it's calculated risk. But you need to invest for the long term. You need to have local institutions that are strong. Having a foreign bank coming out of it's not the best for the smaller farm. You really need, and that's what we commit. We are now doing business in Bolivia. We're also looking in Ecuador, and I think those projects, they are the ones that really bring a change.
Maybe I can also direct this question to Rabi. Rabi, you mentioned a lot of projects, but those also need a startup, and you're working with students that come. And how do you maintain those projects over the years with, people in the organization?
So yeah, I'd love to answer this. First of all, we have one project tracking. We always do, because if you launch the projects, we select the champions, we select the winners, and we fund to them with the support of our partners. Okay, that's fine. We always check to them what's the progress of the events, projects. What are the progress of that projects? How far they have, because don't give directly money over. If the money has just given on 3-month basis, so the winners, and they have to give us the report 3 months. If we are satisfied on that, and if our partner is satisfied, okay, this project is going good, then we again give the fund of the project. And we, due to this tracking and due to these results, the partners always attract. So to attract our stakeholder, I believe that to make the business model attractive, okay, not give works on them, be realistic. Well, so it's depend regions. It depends upon the places also, because in some places there is a very good policy of governments, agriculture. In places, some of the places, the government are really neglecting the issue. So it's depend upon the region also.
Okay, thank you. Are there more questions from the public? I don't know where the flying mic is. I saw that have you, when you your organization, because you are also face those problems of starting up, finding, you already said I didn't even have a car, but how was that for your co-founders to maybe also take that risk of doing something that you feel is good for the environment that you want to do?
Yeah. So at our team, small but mighty. We have 15 team members, and the majority of which are youth, and 14 of us are based in Ethiopia. So most of my colleagues are local Ethiopians. So I do foreign in a place like my rock star colleague, right? And that reasons why they first want to protect our age young or you know that most people want things equal. The second thing is a lot of forested. I think how forested is doing agribusiness, kind of agri companies there are in Ethiopia. That is that we specialty ingredients and to these global. So I think youth they may not know for a lush color or the back press is really helpful. So like seeing the New York Times that reasons that they show up in. So I think really good leverage strengthening coalitions of people of all come behind.
Yeah, interesting. Well, from the public? Something you don't want to say, or can I do?
Once more, I mean, it's to the youth a they, that's why I think that actually is with just investments. Starts with zero deforestation, please. And then a little bit better, we will make actually positive business, and we will actually nature and do everything.
I really touched me that because my home, our reason, and education, they don't know to blaze, and but you are a good engineer. There should be a good government policy that every reasons, not on a single reasons, every reasons the farmers should get access more. They really make it true. Saying need to take part in negotiation also. Other no one negotiator here or not, but if anyone is here, I again please take us on the negotiation to raise our voice.
Wonderful, Ariana?
I'll end on just encouraging everyone to think about scale. So I think if world and create incomes and jobs business, but I do think one of the most culture world is finding that financing partner, rocking up to bank. It's you have to the nail to scale. I would say if you do all the hard work, develop a project, jobs and protects the natural world, you can really only scale if you have the right financing partner. So I just want to encourage all of you to, put in the effort and the energy to find that right financing partner so you can scale all of the hard work that you do.
Okay, I want to thank my three amazing keynote speakers. And we have learned a lot about the impact that youth can have. We are small but mighty. We want to have an impact as youth. We want to be there, we want to learn, but therefore we also need support. Not only the financial support that can help us to scale up, but also the knowledge exchange that partners can provide us. So I think if anyone is in the room that wants to partner to have that knowledge exchange, to have what was generational and now only the generation for is only the financing, but also we need the knowledge what was once there. I think also mentioned by Rabi, we also need to hope from the governments that they will support us in a way that they allow us to do these sustainable things like the carbon markets, to set up very clear what it has to be, what it can be, but what rules it should be, so that it's clear for both the private bankings, but also for the corporate bankings, and to the farmers that are here, what they can achieve and how they can make a better impact. So once again, I want to thank you all for being here. I would say we still have a bit left, so if there are still some arising questions, you can still do it. If not, I would say we give them a grand applause.